Hello, and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, divorce support for dads, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval, and I'm your host. I created this podcast in the Divorced Advocate community as a result of my own high conflict divorce, and because you as a dad deserve all the resources necessary to thrive through this challenging time. I encourage you to check out our website at thedivorcedadvocate.com, where there are resources that correspond to this episode, as well as free access to our membership community, where you will find live meetings, free workshops and courses, private discussion groups, and more. And now on to this week's episode. Hello, a quick show note that if you would like to hear this full episode, head over to the website at thedivorcedadvocate.com and become a member of our The Divorced Advocate membership community, where you can hear this full episode of our awesome roundtable that we have talking about Are You a Tom Brady? And you will be able to find out if all of us on the roundtable are a Tom Brady and if you are a Tom Brady. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dads Dating After Divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval. I am your host, and my co-host here is...
My name is Ralph, but I go by the pen name DSO, which stands for Dad Starting Over. I'm the founder of dadstartingover.com and author of several books, including the popular Dead Bedroom Fix.
Oh, man, Ralph, you always remember to promote yourself, and I always forget to promote myself. I am the founder of the Divorced Advocate, a website that helps dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. And we've got a great show today. Our topic is, or actually the title is, Are You a Tom Brady? And we're going to get into that in just a minute, but I want to introduce our guest today, Ralph, and that is those men are that you see and hear are the Mad Men of Masculinity from Mad Men Radio right here in my hometown of Denver, Colorado on KLDC 1220 AM. Jason B. Kendrick and Kirk. Hey, Kirk, you don't have your M up there. Kirk M.
You're right.
Samuels.
I know, man. He's
Man,
throwing you curveballs already. I know, man. I didn't know there was homework.
Welcome, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. So we're talking about this Tom Brady divorce, Tom Brady and Gisele Bundchen. If you're living under a rock, or maybe you're listening from somewhere else in the world, Tom Brady is probably one of the greatest of all time American football players. Has been in the league for, I think, 22 years, something like that, 12, 14, 15 Pro Bowls and 4 or 5 or 6 Super Bowl titles and MVPs, and just an amazing athlete, net worth of over $400 million. Gisele, they've been married about 13 years, I believe, or were married 13 years. She was or is still, I guess, a supermodel that then they had 2 kids together. And then apparently things have gone south. So let's just start with the Mad Men's take on what's going on with this. I know I've got a few ideas of my own, but Jason, what are your thoughts? You're sharing something a little bit when we're offline starting out here.
Well, to try to be a good guest, I tried to do a little bit of research, but of course, when I got on
after
YouTube,
your nap,
after my nap, I have to have my old man nap. I did a little bit of research, but of course, the kind of feminist leading narrative was that Gisele gave up everything for Tom, and he said that he was only going to play 10 more years after they got together. Then it's been 13 years, and he retired. Then he turned around and said he was playing again. So yeah, from that perspective, from what I was seeing, it looks like, okay, well, there was just a difference of opinion and whatnot. But honestly, I cannot tell because I'm not there. But one of the things I did really pick up on was the fact that he is definitely one of those, he wants to be the greatest of all time. He's driven. Football is probably the most important thing to him. And he even says that if it's not about football, he doesn't really care, kind of thing. Like, football is the most important thing. And if you marry somebody like that, you have to accept that that's who they are. And I think this comes down to another one of those things where he may have had good intentions and said, well, I'm only going to play 10 years and only go for one Super Bowl. And then he's like, oh, maybe I can be the greatest of all time. And he's got that drive and mindset. So he is who he is. And I think she kind of realized that she couldn't change him like maybe she thought. What do you think, Kirk?
Kirk, you agree with that? Or
yeah,
so, okay. It's not like this guy stopped changing over 13 years. It's like he stopped loving football. And it seems to me, and from all indications through their relationship, that he's been a pretty active and involved father. He was married once before. He's got a son from that marriage. That son's been integrated with their new children, and it's kind of like they've done that co-parenting thing with Bridget Moynihan, and they've brought families together. He talks about his kids all the time. If you listen to his podcast, he talks about his kids, and they're pretty involved. And so, Kirk, this guy's not just a footballer who's possessed about playing football all the time and is just tuned out everything else. He's an active father. He cares. And so, what else could she possibly really want? I understand that she's saying, oh, well, he said he was going to retire. He's not going to retire now. I mean,
yeah, I think in the big picture, probably the big takeaway for all of us is that no one's immune, right? No one's immune to having to balance everything on every side of life, and no one's immune to even in the pursuit and journey of success and being the greatest and all those kinds of things. Still having the home life to balance and still being able to maintain all of those kinds of things. It's not easy. It's hard. Just in the last year or two, besides Tom Brady, we've seen Jeff Bezos, marriage fall apart. We've seen Bill Gates, marriage fall apart. I mean, it's one of those things that, us as men, I think sometimes it does come down to, maybe it's a bigger question of, can we do it all? Can we have it all? Can you pursue, every level of success and greatness in every capacity and still, and still achieve success and all those things? I don't know. It's a rhetorical question, but it's kind of like that scene in Castaway, when he was on the raft, but the volleyball started to get away and he jumped off the raft trying to get the volleyball. And sometimes we got to choose, what's more important, your raft or your volleyball. Maybe we can't have it all, but either way, in the big picture, I think, if nothing else, it's an eye opener that none of us are immune to the ups and downs of life, including, the challenges in relationships and the primary relationships in our home.
Right. Which is, goes to our title, which is, are you a Tom Brady too? And are we immune to that? Jason brought up an interesting point about the feminist perspective on this. And then Kirk also brought up the perspective about after 13, 15, however many years, many of these high achieving men have had a wife that said, I'm just done. I'm just done. So, man, what do we do? Like, what do we do as men if we're missional? Our masculine nature in general is missional. We want to try to balance that, like Kirk said, as fathers and as husbands or boyfriends or whatever your relational status is. But how do we look out for that? How do we balance that? This just seems like these women after a certain period of time just go, yeah, I was kind of into it in the beginning, but now after a decade or whatever, it's just, boring or not that interesting, or I'm looking for something else. Apparently, Gisele's dating some jiu-jitsu guy now. I mean, it's literally weeks after, right? So that's another interesting component.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this begs the question of, I wonder if she was less of a uber successful supermodel type, if their chances of success would have increased. This is kind of a politically incorrect, really kind of a touchy subject, but if she had fewer options financially in life, would she have been hooked to this man more securely as opposed to a woman who's got hundreds of millions in the bank and looks like $1 million. I mean, for goodness sakes, they're two of the most attractive human beings on the planet.
Right.
I don't think that helps things. And the money thing doesn't help things. So it's kind of interesting when we say, man, if it could happen to these people, it could happen to any of us. I think the case could be made that if there's a couple for where it's most likely to not work out, they may be the poster children for that. Two people very much not dependent on each other financially, two people who could go get anyone they want sexually, I guess if you want to say that. Boy, it's going to take a lot of work to keep them together. And you got a guy who's like, I'm very mission driven and I'm gone a lot of the time. And good luck, wife. Hope you enjoy the time with the kiddos and everything else. But hey, I got my mission, it is what it is. None of us know what the hell's going on behind the scenes. But I think just on the surface, any kind of therapist type person would look at that and go, good freaking luck, dude. This is going to be tough. And the fact they made it work for 13 years, that's pretty good. So I don't know what the tipping point was. It does seem to be the whole retiring and unretiring thing. Seems to be it. I don't know, to be quite honest with you. And there was rumors of a dead bedroom situation. I don't know if you had read that, where it was instigated by him. I read that in some news article that in divorce papers or something like that, she cited a bedroom issues, and she wasn't getting her needs met. He wasn't around. He was absent. There was no physical intimacy anymore between them. Who knows what's going on there? But kind of interesting.
It sounds like another case of kind of two high performers, two kind of one percenters who have goals and have dreams and want to be top performers, not being able to step down. Maybe in looking at the interviews and things she did, she was like, well, I gave up my career. I gave up these things to be the stay-at-home mom and to take care of the kids. And he was only going to play for so long. And then he decided not to. And I think it may have come down to, she thought they had an agreement where she was going to support him, and then he was going to turn around and support her as she went back to do whatever. I'm not sure, being a mother of 3 or 2 when going back to being a supermodel. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. Most of the evidence goes the other direction, but maybe she has other irons in the fire. But it just seems like there was a feeling of they both thought they had an agreement, and then some minds got changed because they didn't follow the path they had agreed upon. But of course, not being there, not knowing, I just see, we actually did an episode recently about expectations, and one of the things I posted on that or talked about was maybe not going for the 10, because that has a whole lot of baggage. That 1 percenter or that 10 person, there's a lot that goes with that you may not be able to handle. Maybe look for a 6, 7, or 8 who's still fairly attractive, but will appreciate you more. And it has less of the baggage and less of the risks of somebody else trying to swoop in all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. There's a phenomenon that's relatively new. Actually, it's not new as far as taking place, but it's new as far as it's so stinking obvious now, which is we have a relatively small number of men getting all the women. Mm-hmm. And we see that in the online dating world, where, and the people that run like OkCupid put out a whole bunch of data in regards to this, which was very interesting. And they showed that, wow, a very, very small percentage of men, and all the women are like, I'm going for that upper echelon dude. Mm-hmm. And the story for a lot of those women, by their older, more wise women in their life, say, sweetheart, he has a lot of women at his disposal. You're trying to nab a guy who could get he has dozens of women that are calling on him, and good luck. If he's a multi-billionaire on a private jet flying all over the place and he's got women jumping all over him, you as the potential partner to that guy, your work just went up exponentially. Always got to look your best. Always got to be worried about the other woman. So yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. It's good freaking luck if you try to get with the 1 percenter, not necessarily the best partner candidate, long-term partner candidate.
Yeah. But to my understanding, she made more than him, right? So we're initially, not talking about we're not talking about a scenario where started from the bottom and now we're at the top, and neither she didn't have anything, and and all that kind of stuff. She was just the woe is me, just the poor little mom sitting at home, and she made the sacrifice for the family and all that kind of stuff. I mean, she had a thriving career. She's a freaking supermodel, right? So in this scenario, back to the point of, man, nobody really needs each other. Like, in that relationship dynamic, It's like, to your point, I can get whoever I want. Well, really? Well, so can I. I can fly here and there. I got my career. Well, really? So do I. And so then it comes down to, who's it more important to in terms of, okay, maybe we need kind of a relationship timeout here. Maybe we need to reset this thing and figure out, what our relationship priority is. We're in this marriage, but we're miserable. And, me, I'm a two-time, full disclosure, I'm a two-time offender when it comes to divorce. And it's a completely miserable situation to be in where you're with somebody and you're married to somebody, but everybody's miserable. You're in a paper relationship, but there's no connection. Right. And so, even if you're going different directions and traveling different parts of the world and all those kinds of things, pursuing your own thing, it's still a miserable situation to be in. And then, normally at some point, somebody says something, calls out the elephant in the room. And, that can kind of be the beginning of the end. I think the whole unretiring was like him saying, okay, fine, I hear you. Let's get together. Let's do the therapy counseling and we'll make this whole thing happen. And then it was like, wait a minute, I'm a NFL quarterback, right? This is who I am. So without that, now what? And a lot of those athletes have an identity crisis once they retire anyway. Mm-hmm. So, where do you find your identity? And in this case, guys, since we're all guys and primarily we're even talking about a guy, where do you find your identity? Where do you find your purpose? Where do you find your priority? And I think in that case, man, he retired for a minute and he did a couple of trips to the grocery store and, and he was like, all right, man, now what? And so, I mean, this is, it's a lot of complexities, I would imagine, in that scenario.
So you both bring up a really interesting point in the context of modern dating, right? In the fact that, all right, she was a supermodel, but she's also dating, Ralph's a great looking guy, just highly successful, engaged father, et cetera. Is she going to really do better than that? I mean, is it not? Is she going to get out in that dating world and really be able to do better than Tom Brady? And I put that in the context of, do women really need men anymore? Because she made her own money, they make their own money, and if we're out there in the dating world, and then Jason talked about you guys' episode on expectations. Maybe there's something we need to be doing a little bit better in our communication up front about either in our communication up front with who we're dating or in our values and in our beliefs of what we want when we get into a relationship and clearly convey those. And that might, Jason talked about, instead of looking for the 10s, look for the 6 to 8. They're going to appreciate you more. But maybe that's also like, the world out there is saying, go out and achieve and become a supermodel or become your CEO of whatever. But what I want is I want a family and I want traditional values. I want to be the bread earner. I want to be missional. I want you to be about the house and the home, et cetera. And while that might sound, I don't think it sounds misogynistic. I think that's fine if that's what you are setting the expectations up for up front.
Yeah, I think there's such a big push towards independence on both sides. Men have kind of had that, independent Lone Ranger streak for a long time, and we'll suck it up and be okay. And now the ladies are getting there. You go, girl, be a boss, babe, and go be independent and make your money. Well, with two independent people who don't have an interdependent mindset, then it's all me, me, me. I thought one thing that was interesting was looking at the divorce statements when Tom was saying, well, my wife and I were ending this amicably, and we're going to work with the kids and be co-parents and everything. And she said, well, my kids and my ex, and it was all about her. And so I think that was part of maybe that catalyst to destruction for them, was that they're both, high achievers and high earners, but it's all about them and their achievements. And so I think she could only stay on the sideline so long before she's like, I've got to go, make my mark again and become Gisele again and all those things. But I mean, that's something you got to look at when you're getting into these relationships. But for the rest of us normal folks, I would say getting into relationships under the mindset of interdependence, of serving the relationship, serving the family. If you're going in there with a lot of this, what am I going to get? And Kirk and I talk about it quite a bit. Are you going into this relationship out of a mindset of service? how am I going to serve my partner? How am I going to serve this family and this relationship? If you're going into it with what am I getting out of it, then you're both at a detriment. You're going to bleed each other dry instead of adding to that well and making, all boats rise, as it were.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Jude with a quick reminder about the Divorced Advocate Foundation for Fathers, which is our nonprofit that helps dads through divorce with legal education, free or reduced cost coaching, and mental health resources. If you own a business or know someone who does, there's an easy way to help by connecting credit card processing through our partner program. Part of the fees go straight to the foundation with no added cost to the business, and 98% of businesses are actually able to save money on their processing fees. It's a win-win. So if you know a business that accepts credit cards, get them in touch with me by sending a warm introduction email to jude@thedivorcedadvocate.com or give me a call directly at 720-255-1021. So, Ralph, do you think Gisele's going to have a big wake-up call when she gets out in the dating world?
No, Gisele will be just fine.
Yeah,
she may not get married again, but she'll have plenty of dates.
Yeah, she'll be just fine. Yeah,
she'll do the J-Lo thing and have like 5 different husbands.
And some of them twice.
Are we in a roundabout way exposing something that's not so nice to say about the institution of marriage, at least what it was in the past, which was it was based very much upon the dynamic of I, woman, in the case of the past so many generations, need you, man. That's why this bond is strong. As long as that need is there, and then we will remain a couple. And what prevented women from saying, I don't need you anymore? Well, there was social constraints such as if I'm a woman and I divorce, I'm a social pariah. In the 1950s, 60s, whatever, a single mother. Oh, good Lord, right. No, I can't do that. No one will ever want to be with me. I'll die alone and I'll die starving and no one will be able to take care of my kids. That kept them within the marriage, working a little harder in the marriage. Financially, I need him. There was no such thing as necessarily alimony and child support. And what if I don't get to see my children? I won't be taken care of. So we've torn down a lot of those constraints, those walls around this marriage, and voila, I'll be damned. Divorce has gone through the roof, and a lot of people are saying, why am I in this institution again? What do I get out of it? And what are the benefits? And women, and it doesn't hurt, or it doesn't help rather, that women are now making more money than ever. Yep. The college grads are more women than men. And all kinds of stuff. So
and they're incentivized to get divorced nowadays too, because the state incentivizes them, alimony, child support, all the different things. So I mean, for them, it looks like a good deal. They see their girlfriends getting divorced, and now she's making more money and living a better lifestyle after the guy. So she thinks she can do it, not thinking about all the work and everything else that goes into it as well.
Right. And divorce, as we know, divorce is catchy.
It's like a virus. Yeah.
I went through a divorce myself, and I don't think it was a coincidence that shortly after my wife left the home, the neighbor on this side left her husband, and then shortly thereafter, the neighbor on this side, I'm not joking, right, on either side of us got divorced. I don't think that was a coincidence.
So they stoke each other's fire.
Yeah, well, very interesting points there, which is, so we've removed these social barriers around it, and so they don't now have these kind of guardrails socially, and they don't need us to take care of them. But what about the needs that they have mentally, emotionally, and within a relationship? Those that have not gone away.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that aspect of that too. Go ahead, Kirk.
And I think, it does come down to needs. Do I need you and do you need me? And in my mind, my thought, my philosophy is, I think we should need each other, not need like air, maybe need like air conditioning, where, I can live, but man, my life is dope with you in it, kind of thing. And so when you get to the point where your needs no longer align in terms of your relationship, then, then that's when things begin to disintegrate, and somebody begins to say, well, you know what, maybe I can. It happens with every single boy band. I mean, every single, rock band. I mean, when we don't need each other anymore, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, maybe I can go out and do my little solo career kind of thing. And again, in this scenario, neither one of them really needed each other. I don't think either one of them still need each other. And, I'm pretty sure, they'll figure out, or they've already figured out the whole parenting situation, the property stuff. They don't, I'll go out and buy a house just like the one better than the one we got now. We got nannies and we got all this other kind of stuff. And so a lot of things that, us normal folk might argue about in court, they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff because they don't need each other in that kind of way. But I think relationally speaking, when your needs no longer align, then, maybe it's somewhat natural, but unfortunate for somebody that one or both to say, why are we here? Why are we doing this? I mean, and maybe that's just a natural outflow.
Yeah, I'd see a lot of times, when we look at the Institute of Marriage as it began, it was a survival need. And now it's no longer a survival need. So now it becomes more of a interdependent need, choice. So you have to choose. Like I was watching somebody talk about, I choose to love her. So that even when she's being chaotic or even when I'm not right, we still choose to love each other. And that's what we're seeing is a lot of this fairy tale Disney starstruck lover syndrome mentality isn't panning out. And so anytime there's any rocky waters, they choose to bounce instead of working on the relationship and actually creating a deeper foundation for interdependence and choosing to need each other and love each other. And it's because they have this idea of, from romantic comedies and Disney, oh, well, if anything happens, if there's any arguments or any, strife, then there must be something wrong. Maybe he's not the one or she's not the one. And so now it's going towards more of we need to choose and be very open about choosing that. We know that there's going to be these dramas and different dynamics that we need to work through. And that's going to create that love that we think we're supposed to get instantaneously nowadays, but we actually have to create it through interdependence and choosing to love each other in that way.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Jason, basically what you're saying is the institution of marriage until recently has been more transactional. We needed to enter into that transaction because we needed to survive. We need to figure out ways to get along and do it together. Now we've kind of don't need that quite as much. And so we've gone to the other end of the spectrum, which is, all right, we don't need each other from that transactional perspective. So I guess, Ralph, I'll ask you, do you think this will help to move back maybe to the middle where we're looking at this in more of a holistic, maybe to take a religious term, a covenant type relationship where we're actually looking to have it be something that is deeper and intimate and interpersonal, like Jason was talking about?
Yeah, I do predict we will see kind of the pendulum swing to far more traditional conservative types of relationships here in the future. I think when we see the breakdown and this ain't working for anybody, I think we'll see an upsurgence where it will kind of be the cool hip thing to do just that. But back to the original point of the current state of marriage is relatively new, where my partner is my best friend in the whole world, my lover, my caregiver, my et cetera. That didn't exist for many generations. It just used to be, we just have an agreement, we raise some kids and that's it, right? And we're just going to stick it out through all this. Now we have to take care of all these different things, spokes on the wheel. That's relatively new. And voila, it's really, really hard to pull off. When one of those spokes doesn't work quite right, we're like, oh shit, this just must not be.
And there's other aspects too that we tend to forget about. Is back in the day, a lot of times marriages were arranged, so they were chosen. And it's interesting, you look at the statistics, arranged marriages tend to work out a whole lot more than these Western marriages nowadays. But there's also, like you're talking about the spokes on the wheel, there was also mother, father, grandparents, aunts, uncles. There was a whole village keeping everybody together and in line, and you had this whole village of people working together. And now we're all on our own, and like you said, realizing, oh, that's a lot of work. How can I do all this all on my own? Or how can even we two just do this together? And then you throw in the kind of feminist narratives and we don't need each other and everybody's hyper independent. It just all falls apart.
Yeah, we kind of went from I'm talking, maybe this is, I don't know, anthropology or whatever the term is for I went to public school, so forgive me if I don't know all the right stuff to say, but the study of kind of humanity back in the day. But, gradually speaking, in terms of history, a lot of times these marriages, whether arranged or not, were role based. Now they're more soul based in terms of, it's not so much I'm looking for, she's looking for a provider protector per se. And he's looking for, want someone to fulfill the domestic and family kind of things. It's not so much what is your role in the relationship or in the marriage. It's for my soulmate. And I'm looking for somebody that helps amplify and magnify who I am on the inside, not what I need on the outside. And so, but that I don't know that transition has completely happened yet. So I think we're still in terms of generations. And so I think we're still kind of caught in the middle of all of that. Like, okay, hey, Tom, I don't need you. I don't need your money. I don't need your status. I'm not impressed by, your stadiums full of people with Super Bowl rings. Have you seen me on a runway? Like, I mean, do you know that I'm a freaking Brazilian supermodel? Like, who's the lucky one here? And I think from his perspective, like most guys, the older we get, I'm not so much looking for just the hot chick. Like there's got to be more than that, right? I need some peace in my life. I need somebody that's going to complement, the things that I might be doing in terms of my bigger mission as a man. And so all those things kind of feed into the soul of who I am. And so I don't know that transition has completely happened yet from role to soul, but either way, I think, it's really complex in terms of what each other is looking for in terms of that relationship and what the current marriage looks like these days.
Well, so then how do we reconcile what you just said with the role, the role to soul, but also with what Ralph said earlier, which is that book Dataclysm from the founder of OkCupid, where he talks about all these statistics that there's the small percentage of men getting all of the women. How do you reconcile that? Because to me, that's a contradiction, right?
We also have access. We also have access to more people than we have over history. I mean, when has there ever been a generation that can meet a mate by swiping? Right. I mean, like I remember the first time I joined a dating app, I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was like
So
a fat
many.
kid at a buffet, man.
It's like Candyland, right?
I was like a chubby kid at Golden Corral, man. Like I have the big kid in Willy Wonka's factory, man. I'm eating it all. I'm like, dude, I mean, it was ridiculous, man. Gluttonous completely. So there's never been a generation that has had access to so many other people. I mean, outside of my circle, outside of my people that I interact with. And so, I mean, again, those complexities, man, it just makes it, I mean, exponentially more difficult to just stay single-minded in the context of a relationship.
Yeah, and there's just way too many options. I mean, you look at before social media, what was the number one factor in relationships? It was proximity, location. Now you have this little device in your hand and you can go trolling all over the world. You can go look on dating apps all over the world. You can, the women in America are too troublesome, so I can go to Thailand and Singapore or, Brazil and Colombia. There's too many options. And like most of us, we have too many options. We just get brain fried. We don't have any real focus anymore.
Right. But Ralph, how do we, so I understand all that and I agree with all that, but how do we reconcile that 20% of the guys are getting 80% of the women if what Kirk says is that they're looking from role to soul? Because it doesn't feel like that, right? If they're only looking for the top 20%, they're the greatest looking guys, the highest achieving guys. To hear the rest of this episode and access the corresponding resources, visit thedivorcedadvocate.com and become a member of our community. It's free to join and will provide you with the resources you deserve as a divorced or divorcing dad. Thank you for listening. God bless, and I'll talk with you next week.